It has been a vicious and cruel 48 hours in crime across the country. Some people have been left in tears, others terrorised. This is an ongoing problem for this country, but we just want to highlight this just in the last 48 hours, incidents right across New Zealand, and we start in Pukekohe, where yesterday afternoon it was revealed that in Pak'nSave in Pukekohe, a woman threatened shoppers with a hockey stick. She had a male accomplice with a balaclava and drove up the side of the food court. Newmarket, 1:30 on Tuesday. This is our biggest shopping centre. A man armed with a knife did over a jewellery store, tried to at least. Police arrested him. 6 p.m. last night, Westfield, Riccarton, Christchurch, a brawl, 15 children, chairs hurled across the food court, onlookers left in tears. On the southern motorway yesterday afternoon, a motorist claims a gun was pointed at them in traffic by an unknown male in a van, police investigating that. And you'll know about this one in Albany, the axe attack. This happened at 9 p.m. on Monday. A 24-year-old went on a rampage at 3 restaurants. And we go to Whangarei, where on Monday night on Anzac Road at 5:30 p.m. a man was stabbed, taken to hospital where he died of his injuries. And in Half Moon Bay in Auckland, this Monday afternoon, a person was found dead, a woman handcuffed, and police are investigating. This all in the last 48 hours here in New Zealand. National leader Christopher Luxon is with us this morning. Good morning. Great to have you on the show. Without saying Labor's soft on crime, why is this happening? Why is it seeming to happen so much more often?
Well, look, I think the first thing is the basic right of all New Zealanders is to be able to feel safe in your own home, in your own business and your own community. And it's obvious that they're not feeling that. They're actually seeing this rising level of crime. What we've seen is a 30% growth in violent crime. We've seen a 40% growth in retail crime, 65% growth in gangs, and a ram raid every 15 hours. My challenge is we don't have to accept that this is now the new normal in New Zealand. We can choose to do something about that. And that's why we've been so strong on law and order over the last year.
The thing that gets me is you listen to the police ministers to a certain extent, to certain members of the police top brass who've come on this show. They almost make you feel like it's in your head, you know, that crime, it's only because people are reporting it more,
Yep.
you know. Well, I'm sorry, but talk to any normal person, especially if you live in Auckland, they're noticing this stuff.
They are. I was down the bottom of Queen Street over the weekend, and it's very obvious that that has changed since over the last 3 years. But again, the issue is the message that you send from the top that this is permissive, this is okay, there's nothing to see here, everything's fine, is not fine. And so let's call reality for what it is, and then let's do something about it. Because collectively as a country, we don't have to accept that this is the new normal. Because what's happening is that becomes normal, and then we get more gratuitous violence, and then we accept that that's the new case, and it just keeps dropping away. So let's do something about it. Let's actually make sure we send the right messages and we have the right consequences in place.
OK, and that brings us to your policy on gangs, which we had David Seymour on the show here on AM on Monday, and even he seemed to agree with Labor that the policy you announced actually was nothing new. Here's what David Seymour had to say on the show on Monday.
It is there in black and white, I think it's Section 9 of the Sentencing Act, that one of the aggravating factors is that you are a member of a criminal organisation. So while I'm no lawyer, from a plain reading of it, it appears that, that I hate to admit it, but Labor is saying something true.
So is Labor and Seymour right, or are they wrong?
Well, look, respectfully, I disagree with David and Labor. I mean, Labor itself's been horribly confused. Ginny Anderson saying it's just a tweak, Kerry Allen saying no, it's the end of mankind. So the bottom line is there's inconsistency there. Let me be really clear about this. Today there is an aggravating factor for organised crime, but it doesn't have to. It has to be connected to the actual crime, the organisation, to the crime that's taken place. What we want to do is add gang membership to that, and that's really important because a gang member for any crime then can actually have an aggravating factor levied against them by the judge, and I think that's entirely appropriate. When we've talked to people in the judiciary, when we've talked to others, it's actually quite difficult to actually prove that connection between the organised crime unit and the actual crime itself, whereas actually just making membership of a gang an aggravating factor, I think, is a much cleaner and a much better way to go.
Right. So
it comes as part of a set of policies, really, that are around banning gang patches in public places, giving police proper dispersal powers, non-consensual ordering and warrantless search powers.
But just on this point, because this is the point that's been contentious this week, so you're saying that if a gang member commits a crime completely unrelated to their gang, completely unrelated to organised crime, like just, I don't know, they go and shoplift while they're on holiday in Queenstown or something, when they face criminal charges for that, when they're in court for that, an aggravating factor could be the unrelated fact that they are in a gang?
Correct, because we acknowledge that gang crime has huge implications for people who've been previously affected by gangs, and there's a lot of consequences there. So we're saying, yes, if you're a member of a gang, irrespective of the crime that you commit, you're going to have an aggravating factor. But let's be clear, you've got to have committed a criminal offence, you've got to be a gang member, and that's what then leads to the aggravating factor.
All right, when the banking inquiry, if and when they come back with recommendations which could place further restrictions on the banking sector, would you enact them if you were in government?
Well, look, a couple of things here. I mean, the first thing I'd say is I think this is really cynical politics and deflective politics. It's come a week after we've just announced this country's gone into recession. That's a serious problem. And the Labor government's out there last night advertising to its party members that this is a big cost of living action. It's actually a market study into the effectiveness and competitiveness of our banking sector. Back in March, we asked for actually a short, sharp, select committee where we could bring in the banks and really interrogate what's going on. We're open and supportive to this market study. And of course, the key thing is actions, and actually, does anything change as a result of it? There are legitimate concerns that Kiwis have, rightfully, about bank profitability, and we want to explore those. But as always, it's about actions, not reports.
What did you make of Marama Davidson in the House yesterday calling the ACT Party's questioning of the Te Whatu order policy on hospital wait lists racist or potentially racist?
Well, firstly, access to healthcare should always be on the basis of need, not ethnicity, and we're very strong on that point, and that won't happen under a national government. But I just think it's too easy just for everyone to throw accusations around rather than actually have a proper debate about it. Particularly with respect to that policy, Kiwis know that that's unfair. They know that two Kiwis living on the same street with the same conditions and one gets priority because of their ethnicity isn't right. Actually, Chris Hipkins knows it's not right because he's put pause on the whole thing anyway. So, that I think is just lazy and unacceptable, really.
Has she called you racist yet?
I don't know. I've been called lots of names over my 2 years in politics, so I haven't tracked exactly what Marama Davidson has said or hasn't said to me personally.
Now, the Tesla issue. This is going to be talked about today, I'm sure. So you came on our show and you said it was your wife's Tesla. Because the question I asked you was, did you get the rebate that you'd been criticising? And you said, well, it's my wife's Tesla. And so I stopped asking questions because, as a political journalist, we were always told family's sort of off limits. So if it's a wife Tesla, it's your wife's Tesla, it's your wife's Tesla. So you don't have to answer anything, as far as I'm concerned about this. But do you have anything to say after the revelations that your family may have got the rebate or whatever?
Look, as I've said before, my wife owns a Tesla. I told the journalist 7 months ago who initially asked the question, back then, gave them a statement about that. And the bottom line is, I think it's really inappropriate to go into my wife's or my kids' financial affairs. I'm the politician, not them. But what I'd just say to you is, we stand by our comment opposing the fact that people that can afford to pay should, and that those that can't, think about the ute drivers that actually don't have an alternative, end up getting lumbered with a tax. We stand by that policy. We believe there's a need for much more targeted spending in government. Again, that's the point on prescriptions. Why should people who can afford to pay get a subsidy for prescriptions rather than those that can't? They should be supported. So, more targeted spending so that we can actually spend and do other things with that money that actually can make a difference to New Zealanders is what this is all about. So, we stand by our policy very strongly on that.
Do you think the same about superannuation?
Well, superannuation has been universal for a long period of time.
Yeah, I know, but it's the same principle.
That's not something you're going to change.
It's the same principle, isn't it?
I get it, but it's not. Yeah, but universality of superannuation's been something that we've agreed on all sides of the tent, and I think that's fair enough.
No one's going there.
We see so much wasted money at a time in a recession where this country has to make some choices about making sure the spending in every dollar really counts and delivers outcomes for New Zealanders at this time.
Chris Luxon, thank you very much for your time. The National Party leader with us from Parliament.